Discover the incredible note left for a waitress. A billionaire's life-changing gesture revealed. In the Sunnyside diner, where laughter bounced off checkered tablecloths and the smell of pancakes lingered in the air, Sarah poured coffee with practiced ease. She was a whirlwind of action, a single mother doing her best to juggle plates and bills. At 35, she had grown accustomed to the indifference of some patrons who saw her as just another cog in the diner machine. But beneath her smile lay exhaustion, a heart heavy with the weight of her dreams slipping away, each day a race against time to provide for her spirited 16-year-old daughter, Emily. Every shift was an unspoken reminder of their struggles. "Mom, can't we have a normal life? You know, a house with a yard, maybe some nice clothes?" Emily's words pierced her like a sharpened knife. It stung more than she let on. "This is our life, honey." Little did Sarah know that this day would change everything. As noon hit, the diner buzzed with its usual hustle. A reclusive billionaire, Alexander, slipped in, disguised as an ordinary man craving a humble meal. He settled into a booth, observing the chaotic rhythm. There, in the midst of laptops being opened, children laughing, and sizzling burgers, he saw Sarah. She was the centerpiece of this tiny universe, smiling genuinely as she refilled mugs and wiped down the counter. Each time she interacted with a customer, her kindness radiated like warmth in a cold room. Intrigued, Alexander vicariously felt her struggles. She deserves more, he thought, as he watched her deftly navigate orders, unfazed by the chaos. In a moment of spontaneous inspiration, he decided to leave behind a handwritten note along with an unexpectedly hefty tip. "You uplift everyone around you. Remember, your worth isn't defined by your job. Keep shining your light." But before Sarah could fully embrace the joy of the gesture, news of the billion-dollar tip exploded across town like wildfire. The diner became a battleground of opinions. What should have been a heartfelt moment spiraled into chaos. "It's privilege," someone scoffed from a nearby table. "What does he know about hard work?" The air grew thick with tension, whispers morphing into heated debates. Sarah watched, her heart aching as people she thought of as friends weighed in on the ethics of wealth and merit. Emily, too, was consumed by turmoil as she scrolled through social media, finding outrage, memes, and sarcasm directed at her mother's supposed windfall. Sarah's heart sank lower. How could such a generous gesture result in division and hurt? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they sat together in their cluttered living room, a moment of profound silence enveloped them. Sarah opened her mouth, ready to bridge their growing divide. Just then, Emily's phone buzzed a text with a photo of the note that had gone viral. Their eyes locked, questions swirling unspoken between them. Could they find common ground amidst the chaos? Or would this be the moment that pushed them further apart? The world outside, with its judgments and debates, threatened to drown out the love they had for each other. What lay ahead would test the very fabric of their relationship. Could they recognize that sometimes understanding was born not from wealth, but from the shared struggle that bound them together? The silence in the living room stretched painfully. Sarah could feel the weight of unspoken words pressing down on her. Emily stared at her phone, her brows furrowed in confusion and anger. The photo of the note had spread faster than wildfire, and its implications seeped into their home like an unwelcome guest. "Mom, do you even see what people are saying?" Emily finally burst out, sliding her phone toward her mother. "They're calling you a charity case. They don't get that it's not about the money for you, but still." "I know," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't ask for this. Then why are we the ones who have to deal with it?" Emily's eyes brimmed with frustration. "You're the one they're talking about. They're acting like you've won the lottery, and all they see is a waitress with a rich guy's handout." Tears stung at Sarah's eyes, but she fought them back. "Emily, listen. That note wasn't just about the money. It was meant to uplift. It was a reminder that we're worth so much more than what we often endure. But can't you see that all they see is privilege?" Emily countered. It's easy to uplift someone when you're living in your fancy mansion. What does that rich guy know about my life? About us? Suddenly, the argument spiraled deeper, touching every raw nerve they both had tried to ignore. Sarah's heart ached at the thought of how the outside world had entered their safe space, tugging at every insecurity they housed. Your life isn't defined by what others think. Sarah said quietly. But it's okay to feel frustrated. We're living in a world where people judge first and ask questions later. I'm sorry that this is happening to us. Emily looked away, her expression softening a little. I see so many people talking about you, and it feels so unfair. Like you're someone they can blame for their problems because you're an easy target. Sarah rubbed her temples. I never wanted to be that person. I want to work hard, teach you the value in struggles, and show you that compassion is powerful. That note, it was supposed to be light in the darkness, a reminder for myself too. A lull settled between them again, but this time it was different. There was a thread of understanding pulling at the corners of their conflict. Emily leaned forward, biting her lip, her own defenses beginning to crack. I just want us to be okay. I don't want people to see you as less because you've worked so hard. Sarah's heart warmed, a flood of love washing over her. We will be okay, and we can still find joy in our struggles. Remember, it's not about where we live or what we have. It's about who we are inside. Emily looked up. But what if this note changes everything? What if it drives everyone away rather than bringing people together? I guess we'll have to face that together, Sarah replied, a newfound strength in her voice. We'll face whatever comes our way together. Just as they shared a hesitant smile, Sarah's phone buzzed, interrupting the fragile truce they had just built. It was a notification from the diner's social media account, announcing a community meeting to discuss the situation. Ugh, we can't get away from this, can we? Emily groaned. We have to decide what we're going to do, Sarah said, determination sparking in her chest. Will we let this divide us more, or will we stand up and show them who we really are? Emily's eyes filled with a new light. Maybe it's time to redefine this story. With uncertainty hanging in the air, they exchanged a knowing glance, and for the first time, hope flickered amidst their fears. Their castle of struggles might just be the strongest shelter they could build. But as they prepared for an uncertain future, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that Alexander, the billionaire, was about to step back into their lives in ways they never expected. What could he possibly want next? As the sun dipped below the horizon, a golden glow filled the living room. Sarah leaned against the doorframe, taking a moment to breathe. The air felt thick with tension, but there was a flicker of something else, too. It was that undercurrent of hope that she and Emily had clung to in their quiet moments. What are we going to wear? Emily asked suddenly, wrenching Sarah from her thoughts. Where? She blinked, not quite processing. What do you mean? For the meeting, Emily said, her eyebrows raised. We can't just show up in our usual stuff. We need to look, strong. Strong, Sarah murmured, her heart racing. She was used to the simplicity of jeans and sweatshirts. The thought of facing the community felt daunting. All right, let us put something together, then. As they rummaged through the closet, tossing clothes on the bed, Sarah's thoughts drifted back to Alexander. She remembered the way he had smiled that first day in the diner, how his laughter had felt contagious, and how quickly everything had spiraled out of control. His gesture with the note had been meant to lift spirits, yet somehow it felt like it had created an avalanche of chaos instead. Do you think he'll be at the meeting? Emily asked, her voice breaking the stillness. Honestly, I don't know. After everything, Sarah sighed. I don't think he completely understands what this means for us. Emily stopped folding a t-shirt and turned to look at her mother. But he's the one who started it all, she pointed out. Doesn't he have some responsibility here? Maybe he thinks he has done enough just by leaving the note. I guess we're not privy to his world. Sarah felt frustration bubbling again. A familiar ache of injustice settled in her chest. Oh, I see how it is, Emily scoffed lightly, rolling her eyes. His rich friends probably think we're just living it up now. Just one note can easily be twisted into something that it wasn't meant to be. Sarah shook her head. But we can't change what's out there. After a while, they settled on simple outfits. Emily looked strong in a fitted black top, and Sarah chose a soft blue blouse that made her feel a bit more confident. They shared a brief moment of laughter as they checked each other out. Okay, we're ready, Emily declared, her chin held high. Ready as we'll ever be, Sarah replied, her heart thumping noisily in her chest. When they arrived at the community center, the mood was electric. People were milling around, whispering and pointing. She could feel the weight of their stares as if she were walking a tightrope of judgment. Emily's hand found hers, squeezing gently as they approached the entrance together. Once inside, Sarah spotted Alexander across the room. He looked the same as she remembered, strikingly handsome and effortlessly confident. But there was something different this time, a troubled look in his eyes that sent a pulse of confusion racing through her. "I'll go over and talk to him," Emily said, seemingly reading her mother's hesitation. "No, wait," Sarah said, a panic rising within her. "Let us stay together for now. We should stick to our plan." They inched deeper into the crowd, hearts racing, as murmurs and whispers surged around them. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to ground herself amidst the storm of emotions engulfing the room. Then, a sudden hush fell over the crowd. All eyes turned towards Alexander, who had just stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you for being here," he began, his voice steady yet clearly strained. "I think we need to talk about what happened." Sarah's heart dropped. What was he going to say? Was he going to defend himself, or acknowledge the mess that had spiraled from his gesture? As he continued speaking, Sarah's thoughts swirled. She couldn't shake the feeling that the identity of her life was shifting, that soon the ground beneath them might change forever. And that was when she noticed the tense expression on Emily's face as she stood beside her, a mix of fear and resolve. What would this meeting reveal, and how would it alter the course of their story? The tension hung in the air like a taut string ready to snap. Sarah's palms were sweaty as she gripped the edges of her blouse, a small anchor in the sea of uncertainty swirling around her. Emily's eyes were fixed on Alexander, their complexities showing a cocktail of anticipation and dread. Alexander cleared his throat, the microphone amplifying the sound like a starter's gun. "I know that my actions have caused unforeseen consequences," he continued, each word striking like a hammer against a nail. "What started as a simple gesture spiraled into something much bigger, and for that, I am truly sorry." Sarah held her breath. Sorry? Was it enough? Could a simple apology fix the chaos? He took a moment, scanning the crowd. It felt surreal, like they were all in some strange theater with him as the lead. "But I didn't come here just to express regret. I came here to listen and to take responsibility," he said, the sincerity in his voice cutting through the murmurings. Emily's grip tightened around Sarah's hand, a tremor of fear racing between them. "What does he mean by take responsibility?" she whispered, her voice barely above the noise. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her heart racing now with a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the moment things would begin to shift. "I want to open the floor for discussion. Please, share your thoughts. This can't just be about me," Alexander urged, his voice firm but a ripple of whispers surged, and Sarah felt her throat dry. She glanced at Emily, who wore an expression of vulnerability mixed with a glint of determination. They had come this far now, it was time to decide how they would respond. "Should we say something?" Emily asked, anxiety etched across her face. "Let us give others a chance first," Sarah suggested, although her own heart pounded. She needed a moment to gather her thoughts, to construct the right words. But those moments felt like hours. One by one, voices emerged from the crowd, sharing stories interwoven with hurt and confusion. Some were angry, some hopeful, a bittersweet symphony of emotion that bounced off the walls of the community center. Each testimony resonated within Sarah, the pain, the struggles, the way life had been transformed without their consent. Then, unexpectedly, an older woman stepped forward from the shadows. "You started this, young man, but it's our lives that have been tossed into chaos. Do you even realize the power you have?" Her voice rose above the others, a mix of frustration and wisdom. Alexander nodded soberly, absorbing her words. "I can't fully understand your struggles, but I want to learn. I want to make this right." A ripple of disbelief moved through the crowd. Sarah couldn't help but feel a flicker of admiration. Was he truly willing to bear the weight of their pain? In that moment, Emily leaned closer. "Do you think he really means it?" she murmured, skepticism still etched in her features. "I don't know," Sarah admitted, the conflict raging within her. The journey of healing was far more complex than a single apology. But we should at least give him a chance to prove it. Just as she spoke, another voice erupted from the back of the room. "Prove it? How? With a check? Or is it just talk? The crowd ignited. Questions flew back and forth like flares in the night sky, illuminating the uncertainty of the future. Sarah felt the weight of the moment crashing down around her. This was no longer just about her and Emily. It was about the community. The tangled threads of lives changed forever. And then, as if sensing the tipping point, Alexander took a deep breath. "Let me show you what I mean," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd. "Let us create a fund to support our community, to rebuild what has been broken." Gasps filled the room, mixed with murmurs of disbelief and cautious optimism. Sarah's breath hitched as she processed his words. Was this really happening? Emily's face lit up with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "Do you think it will actually work?" "Let us find out," Sarah whispered, feeling a surge of determination ignite within her. But then, as the crowd began to react, she realized that this was just the beginning. The journey toward healing and trust would be long and fraught with obstacles that as they prepared to speak up, Sarah noticed a familiar figure at the edge of the room. It was someone she hadn't expected to see, someone whose presence could change everything. How would this unexpected twist impact Alexander's proposal and the future of their community? The hum of voices filled the room, a babble of disbelief and speculation as people processed Alexander's bold assertion. Sarah's heart raced. She blinked repeatedly, trying to wrap her head around the moment, her gaze drawn to the figure at the back of the room, a quiet silhouette that sent a million memories flooding back. That it was Claire, her childhood friend who had moved away years ago. They used to dream of changing the world together, building something beautiful from chaos. Now Claire stood there, looking older than Sarah remembered, but undeniably fierce. What was she doing here? With a swift exchange of glances, Emily sensed something was off. "Are you okay?" she whispered, their hands still intertwined like lifelines. Sarah nodded, though her thoughts were miles away. As Claire stepped forward, the crowd quieted. Alexander seemed to sense the shift. "If you have something to say, please share," he urged. Claire cleared her throat, her voice calm yet resonant. "I've been watching from afar. I heard about what happened and felt compelled to come back." A hitch of emotion flickered in her words. "But I can't help but wonder, how can you realistically help us? Words are just words, after all." A wave of nods rippled through the audience. It was a valid concern that echoed many thoughts in the room. Sarah felt herself leaning in, invested in this moment. "I know it's more than just words." Alexander's eyes locked onto Claire's. "I understand that now. I needed that wake-up call." He paused as if weighing his next words. "Let us compile a list of community needs and work toward addressing them together." The crowd seemed steeped in contemplation. Sarah's pulse quickened with the growing momentum around them. Maybe, just maybe, this was a genuine attempt to fix things. Yet, a part of her remained cautious. "Do we even know what sort of support we need?" A voice piped up from the crowd. "You've created this mess, but have you explored the depths of what we're facing?" Another person chimed in. "Your fund may help some, but what about the emotional wreckage left behind?" Claire stepped forward again, meeting Alexander's gaze. "The emotional scars are real. The trust is broken," she said, her voice grappling between despair and hope. "This isn't just about money. It's about connection. We need to rebuild that first." Sarah felt a storm of emotions, the weight of Claire's words resonating in her heart. Could a mere fund mend the fractured trust between them? The hope flickered inside her, hesitant yet persistent. Alexander seemed thoughtful, absorbing the feedback. "You're right. Trust isn't built on financial contracts, but relationships. Maybe we need to start small." Before he could finish, someone shouted from the back. "What about accountability? How will you ensure this fund isn't just a quick fix?" "Exactly," Claire added, her voice steady yet passionate. "We need to know you're invested in more than just appearances, Alexander. Show us through actions. Prove you're sincere." The room echoed with affirming murmurs, and Sarah felt the tension shift. This wasn't just a forum anymore. It was a pulse, a shared heartbeat of a community determined to navigate this storm together. As Alexander stood there, visibly shaken yet resolute, Sarah glanced back at Claire. She could see the fire in her friend's eyes, and suddenly, all the possibility ahead shimmered, thick with emotion. Slowly, they could shape a new narrative. But then, just when Sarah thought hope was blossoming, another person stepped forward. The expression on their face suggested more chaos was about to unfold. Wait, we might have other issues to consider that could complicate things greatly. What could this new voice bring to the already charged atmosphere? Would it sow doubt in their tentative hope, or spark a new direction? The room sighed collectively, a moment of held breath as the new voice rang out. It belonged to David, a local businessman who had always been both an opportunist and a skeptic. Sarah could see his brow furrowed in concern, and she felt the tension seep back into the atmosphere. "David, what are you talking about?" someone asked, their tone laced with frustration. The crowd had been making strides, transforming confusion into a collective intent to heal. But Alexander looked at David with an equal mixture of curiosity and wariness. "I'm just saying," David continued, his voice strong and unwavering. "We can't ignore the fact that there are factions in this community. People angry at Alexander here might not respond well to some half-hearted effort at rebuilding. If he is going to do this, he needs to know there are real consequences." The murmurs grew louder, echoing the unease that turned the tenuous hope into uncertainty. Sarah's heart sank, remembering the way their community had been deeply divided before. Trust, once shattered, wasn't easily reinstated. "Every step counts," Alexander interjected, a hint of anxiety coloring his voice. "I understand the risks, and I'm willing to confront them. But we need to focus on what we can do right now, together." "Together?" David laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "The first step would be convincing the naysayers not to sabotage everything you're trying to achieve. What is to stop someone from throwing a wrench in the works, huh?" In this town, emotions run deep. It's not just about fixing financial error. It's about coaxing people back from their anger. Claire stepped forward again, a beacon of resolve in stormy waters. "What if we create a task force? A group made up of different voices in this community that can bridge the gap? It's one way to build trust." Sarah felt bolstered by Claire's suggestion, a flicker of optimism flickering to life. "Yes, it's not just about money. It's about dialogue. If we can listen to each other, maybe we can truly begin to heal." But David stood firm. "And what exactly would a task force do? You think a couple of meetings will erase years of discord? People need action, not talks." "Actions are rooted in intentions," Alexander responded, his voice gaining strength. "We need both." His gaze swept across the crowd, searching for agreement, yet uncertainty lingered. In that moment, Sarah caught Claire's eye again. They shared an unspoken understanding, a bond forged in their childhood dreams. Sarah wanted to believe. The way forward felt possible, even if it was cluttered with hurt and recovery. As the crowd erupted into scattered discussions, debating the merits of Claire's concept, Sarah's mind raced. Could they really change anything? Or were they simply rearranging the deck chairs on a sinking ship? After a moment, something caught Sarah's peripheral vision. A figure at the back of the room, but more familiar, more haunting than she anticipated. A chill ran down her spine. She turned to see Kevin, her old friend turned adversary, stepping through the shadows. "Isn't it quaint," he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Watching you all pretend this facade of community matters will solve anything?" Gasps echoed through the room, reigniting the tension that had been temporarily diffused. Sarah's heart raced as uncertainty crashed against the glimmers of hope. She locked eyes with Claire, feeling trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. The stakes shot back up, pressing down on her chest. What new chaos would Kevin bring? Would he ignite the flames of anger again, or would he step up in a way she could never foresee? The moment hung heavy in the air, a thunderstorm of possibilities waiting just on the cusp of what would happen next. The room held its breath again, anticipation thickening the air like fog. Kevin's cold gaze swept across the crowd, capturing the disbelief and fear that hung there. "What? You think a little heart-to-heart around a table will fix everything? You can't simply wish away hurt. You think trust is just some toy you can put back together after it breaks?" He stepped forward, the shadows that clung to him giving him a striking, insidious presence. "And yet, here we are," Claire said, her voice cutting through the mounting tension, willing to try. "Maybe it's time someone took that risk." "Risk? You think this is about risk?" Kevin's voice rose, snarling now. "This is about stakes. Families arguing. Neighbors feuding. Do you really think people are just going to embrace this fluffy little facade?" Sarah's heart pounded louder in her chest. She wanted to unleash her pent-up anxiety, lash out at him for his cynicism, but the signs of tension on the faces around her held her back. She could feel a storm brewing, a whirlwind of broken relationships and past grievances ready to burst. "Kevin, we're tired of division," she finally said. "What do you propose? More fighting? More anger?" Her voice trembled slightly, but she pressed on. "We need to find a way to come together, and this," she gestured to the room, "this is the start. Or it's just a start to your next disappointment." He shot back, folding his arms defiantly. "You think these people will find solace in your dreams? They want results, Sarah, not platitudes." As those words sank in, Sarah glanced at David, who was watching the unfolding drama with an expression that gave nothing away. She could almost see the gears turning in his mind, but she'd seen a flicker of something behind his mask of skepticism. Ambivalence. Maybe there was a part of him that wanted to believe. "You're a coward, Kevin," David suddenly said. "You just want to sit back and judge while we try to mend what has been broken. You talk about hurt, but you refuse to engage with the people who need it. This town deserves better." Kevin's face hardened in response, but Sarah didn't miss the slight flinch in his stance. Claire stepped closer to David, her determination igniting the spark of hope in Sarah's chest once more. "Look at us," Claire urged the room. "Yeah, we've been hurt, but pain can be a catalyst for change. If we're truly willing to open up, we can finally handle the truth of our past." A quiet hung between them, almost as though the room itself was weighing the implications of those words. The murmurs that ensued were different this time. They held the promise of a growing willingness to communicate. People were beginning to turn to one another, assessing the faces they once avoided. It was a small ember of hope, but it glimmered brightly against the backdrop of Kevin's scorn. Kevin stood rigid, his back straightening as he took it all in. Sarah held her breath, waiting for his next move. Would he deflate the moment? Push the anger further? Or would he surprise them all? His lips curled into a smirk, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Good luck with that," he said, a final punch of cynicism, before he turned on his heel and stalked towards the exit, leaving a ripple of uncertainty behind him as he disappeared into the hallway. The group fell silent. Hope battled with apprehension as people exchanged uncertain glances. Could they really move past the hurt, now that the threat of chaos loomed so dangerously close? Sarah looked at Alexander, then Claire, feeling an urge to take a stand. "This is just the beginning," she declared, each word solid and resolute. "We need to act. If we let fear guide us, we'll never see the change we wish for." A cheer broke loose from the crowd, though it was tentative. But below it, Sarah sensed the weight of the moment. The space felt charged, alive with the potential of what they could accomplish together, or the fractures that threatened to tear them apart once more. As the cheers began to swell, Sarah's mind raced with what needed to be done next. What would the task force look like? Who would join? Would Kevin be back to stir trouble again? The questions loomed, heavy in the air, as the room began to pulse with energy. There was a fragile sense of unity blossoming amidst the uncertainty, yet the path ahead was still fraught with peril. The question lingered in Sarah's thoughts, nagging and persistent. If they were willing to fight against the tide, what could truly become of them? Would they rise above the ashes, or succumb to the flames of their discord? The energy in the room shifted, crackling like the anticipation before a storm. Sarah's heart raced, fueled by a mix of hope and doubt. The cheer from the crowd had awakened something deep inside her, a force that urged her to take action and make a difference. Yet, the shadow of Kevin's departure loomed like a heavy cloud, darkening her thoughts. Claire stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. "We can't let his words define us," she said, her voice steady. "We are more than our past hurts. We have the power to create a future." People began to nod, the tension slowly thawing like ice under the sun. Yet, in the back of their minds, an insistent whisper reminded them of Kevin's warning. Would their efforts fail, or was this a genuine turning point? Alexander moved beside Sarah and clasped her shoulder. "What is our next step?" he asked. His voice was calm, but Sarah could sense the underlying current of anxiety. She knew they needed a plan, something concrete to hold on to, a light to guide them through the uncertainty. "We could organize community discussions," Claire suggested, her eyes brightening with the idea. "Let us invite everyone, not just those in power. We need to hear every voice." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. They could see the beginnings of something beautiful taking shape. Sarah swallowed hard. The thought of everyone coming together excited her, but it also scared her. Would they be able to share their truths without fear? That's a great start, David added, stepping forward. But we also need to establish something that can hold us accountable. We don't just want to talk. We want action. His words seemed to resonate with the crowd. The thrill of possibilities ignited their spirits, and something magical sparked between strangers. They began tossing around ideas, brainstorming workshops and meetups, laughter springing up like daisies from cracks in the pavement. But as the discussions heated up, Sarah couldn't shake a sense of foreboding that echoed in her chest. Kevin's cynicism had left an imprint, and she felt his distrust looming. Just as they were beginning to feel united, she feared his shadow would creep back in to tear them apart again. That a hand shot up from the back of the room, breaking her thoughts. It was a familiar face, Mrs. Thornton, the elderly lady from down the block, known for her warm pies, but also her fierce opinions. What if we drafted a mission statement? She suggested, her voice shaky but resolute. A promise to ourselves, to keep us on track. Sarah felt a swell of admiration for Mrs. Thornton. The old lady had been a pillar of the community, and her words caught everyone's attention. Heads turned, and the crowd fell silent again, absorbing the weight of the suggestion. Let us do it, Sarah said, her voice firm. We need to write it together. Every single one of us. The atmosphere shifted, the air thick with renewed resolve and purpose. They gathered in smaller circles, sharing their thoughts and feelings as they crafted words that would shape their future. But then, out of the corner of her eye, Sarah spotted a figure lingering at the entrance. Kevin was back, his eyes scanning the room like a hawk. The mix of emotions swirling inside her intensified. What was he doing here now? Hadn't they just begun to find their footing? He stepped further into the room, a tumult of expressions dancing across his face. An unsettling quiet fell over the gathering once more, as everyone turned their gaze to him. Did you really think we'd let you all get away with this? He called out, his tone mocking. You actually think you can change anything? Sarah felt her heart drop. Were they truly on the brink of breaking through, only to face his destruction again? The question stirred in her mind, leaving her breathless. How could they fend off Kevin's negativity and find a way to unite and flourish? Were they strong enough to hold their ground against his storm? The tension was palpable, hanging thick in the air like an unwelcome odor. Sarah's heart raced as all eyes were on Kevin, his presence a stark reminder of the doubt that had once clouded their dreams. She could feel the collective anxiety in the crowd, a nervous buzz mingling with the hope that had just begun to bloom. Kevin stepped further into the room, his arms crossed. Smirking, he exuded a potent blend of arrogance and disdain. Look at all of you, he continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Gathering here like you're on the edge of something great. What makes you think you're different? You've all tried to change things before, and look where that got you. The crowd shifted restlessly, emotions bubbling beneath the surface. Sarah caught sight of Claire, who stood tall, defiance radiating from her. You don't get it, Kevin, Claire shot back, her voice unwavering. This isn't about you or your doubts. It's about us. We're ready to stand up and support each other. A small wave of murmurs fluttered through the crowd. The more they spoke out, the bolder they felt. Sarah joined Claire, gritting her teeth against the rising tide of fear. We know the stakes. But this time, we're not alone. We have each other, she said, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. Kevin scoffed, but somewhere in his eyes, a flicker of uncertainty danced. Perhaps a seed of doubt was planted in him, too, buried under layers of skepticism. You really believe that? He challenged, his voice sharper now. Yes, someone from the back yelled, followed by a chorus of affirmations. We do. Sarah felt each declaration buoy her spirit, a collective wave crashing against Kevin's storm. It was a small victory, a reminder that they were here to reclaim their narrative together. This was their turning point, and they would not let a single voice drown them out. As the conversation swirled around her, ideas sprouted like wildflowers breaking through concrete, each one more vibrant than the last. Sarah watched faces light up, old grievances set aside in favor of a future crafted by hands joined together. They talked about community gardens, neighborhood cleanups, and support networks. A vision began to bloom, vibrant and resilient. But Kevin didn't give up easily. He pressed further, his voice rising. But tell me, how will you pay for all this talk? A few meetings and warm feelings one tea change the reality of your situation. You need resources, connections, money. The room fell momentarily silent. Sarah felt a weight settle heavily in the pit of her stomach. Would their dreams succumb to the harsh reality of finances? Shadowed thoughts swirled, taunting her. What if they couldn't find the way? Her gaze darted around the room. They were all facing a challenge. Perhaps not everyone had deep pockets, but they had each other, and that had to count for something, right? With a deep breath, Sarah stepped forward. We may be starting small, Kevin, but that doesn't mean we can't build something great together. Community isn't measured by wealth. It's measured in heart and passion. We'll find ways to support each other, no matter the resources. The crowd erupted, their voices mingling in agreement. It was a rising tide of unity, and Sarah could feel it pulling her into its current. Even Kevin was taken aback, uncertainty flickering across his face. Just as the energy began to shift in their favor, Kevin clenched his jaw, frustration boiling beneath the surface. Fine, let us see you try. But don't say I didn't warn you when everything falls apart. His cutting words hung in the air, sharp and jagged, igniting a fiery determination within Sarah and the others. No longer would they be reduced to silence by a single doubter. As Kevin turned, storms no longer on his side, Sarah felt an unwavering resolve building inside her. It was the end of one battle, but just the beginning of another. How would they channel this energy into meaningful action? The room buzzed with potential, but the question loomed. Could they sustain this momentum? What challenges would they face next in their journey to truly reclaim their community? The haunting tension lingered in the air like smoke after a wildfire. Sarah looked into Emily's eyes, deep pools of uncertainty and cautious hope. Together they had weathered storms. Now, they stood at the cusp of something greater. But the whispers of doubt surrounding Kevin's departure still echoed in Sarah's heart. Would he come back to wreak havoc again? Across the room, Claire rallied the gathering. This isn't just about one person's cynicism, she exclaimed, her voice ringing clear. It's about our stories, our struggles. It's time we flip the script and begin writing a new chapter. Heads nodded, and murmurs filled the air with promising energy. At that moment, Sarah felt something shift inside her, a warmth breaking through the freeze of doubt. Courage blossomed within her as she stepped forward. We need action. But more importantly, we need each other, Sarah declared, her heart racing with each word. Kevin's negativity can't dictate our journey. We've already faced so much on our own. Let us hold tight to the strength we've built, to the love binding us together. The crowd erupted into a buzz of agreement. Faces lit with determination, Sarah felt it, a wave of collective spirit surging through them like tidal forces set to reshape the shoreline. Let us create community sparks, small groups focused on real change. Let us tackle what we can, when we can. We could start by organizing cleanup days and holding open discussions for everyone. Cheering broke out, lifting her spirits higher. The air felt electric, possibilities stretching ahead like a vibrant highway waiting to be traveled. Then, one by one, more voices began to share ideas. Youth mentorship programs, food drives, wellness workshops. Emily turned to her mother, a bright flicker of admiration shining in those familiar eyes. Look at us, Mom. We're doing this. Together, they watched the community come alive, each suggestion forging connections, building trust. In that moment, Sarah realized their path forward wasn't tied to wealth or privilege. It was stitched from camaraderie, compassion, and shared aspiration. The discussions surged on, laughter and ideas intermingling, creating a tapestry of hope. It was as if light was radiating from each face, knitting their fears into unbreakable resolve. Sarah spotted familiar faces, neighbors who had once avoided eye contact, now leaning in, eager to contribute. As conversations flowed, Alexander stepped forward once more, genuine remorse etched on his features. I want to help too. I can support the task force financially, but more importantly, I'll be here to listen. I want to work with you to find real solutions. The room paused, weighed with skepticism, yet tempered by hope. No one had expected his offer. Let us not make this about charity. Let us make it a partnership, Sarah said, her voice steady amid the tumult. We want to rebuild trust, not reinforce hierarchies. It starts with community involvement. As the atmosphere shifted with applause and newfound momentum, Sarah felt the fabric of their reality tighten. They weren't just fighting for their lives. They were crafting legacies, sowing the seeds of real transformation. Outside the windows, the sun dipped low, casting a warm glow inside the room filled with people on the brink of change. Then, as if to drive home the significance of the moment, Kevin re-entered. The stirring whispers hushed, a wave of uncertainty crashing again. Did you really think a little compromise would fix things? He sneered, arms crossed, eyes blazing with disbelief. Enough. Claire stepped forward, her voice fierce yet composed. This isn't a game. It's our lives. But it's easy for you to stand there and preach about trust when you've never had to live with the consequences. Kevin shot back, venom in his words. That's the point, Sarah interjected, her voice trembling but powerful. We're taking responsibility. We're creating pathways to healing. It doesn't matter whether you choose to believe or not. We're still going to move forward. And with that proclamation, a wave of strength washed over her, something she never felt before. Their unity fueled a fire of determination, pushing against the tide of doubt that Kevin remained silent. Something flickered in his eyes, a glimmer of understanding, cracked but shining nonetheless. Maybe, just maybe, their bravery would challenge him to confront his own shadows. That it felt monumental, this shifting energy. Out of the depths of despair, a new community was rising, built on reliance and hard work. Together, they forged ahead, ready for the binding journey toward healing. We're not just making big changes. We're creating a home, Sarah concluded, and applause erupted, drowning out Kevin's retreating footsteps. They moved forward, ideas blossoming into action. Sarah held on to Emily's hand, intertwined dreams binding their hearts tighter. They were ready to transform struggles into bridges, a testament that no mountain was too high when climbed together. Days turned into weeks as awareness grew within their community, each initiative stellar against the vibrant backdrop of change. Sarah smiled at the little victories, how laughter replaced the heaviness of doubt, how compassion revolved through cold barriers, warming the hearts once encased in fear. It was a journey ahead, paved with patience, understanding, and above all, love. They stood together now, Sarah, Emily, and the community, strong, resilient, and proud. And in that moment, Sarah whispered a silent promise to herself, a promise to nurture this path, to keep the light alive, and to never let go of the unity they had forged out of their shared struggles. This was just the beginning. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. So leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending and the strength of community we just witnessed. Don't wait, not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation.